when I'm in the simulator in the aircraft and engines are burning and alarms are going off. Things become really overwhelming where I just want to pull my hair out. When we're training for that, I just go, okay, take it one step at a time. Nothing in this planet will just fall out of the sky into your lap. You only live one life, whatever the goal might be, success, money, fame. Do what you want to do. We wanted to create swim shorts that are so comfortable that it feels like you're naked. The purpose is just to help people and show them my journey of building Naked Viking and building my personal brand. It's difficult, but I love it. Even though I think about where I want to be, that goal, I want to enjoy the journey as well. You're going to think back at the difficult times and say, I'm really happy I overcame that, and wow, that changed my character, made me stronger. I would pass a law that everyone has to make a good deed to help someone or make the world a little bit of a better place.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ryan Lay podcast. This is episode number 3, and today I have a very unique show lined up for you guys. He is a modern Viking, the king of e-commerce and one joke, and he is a jacked creator that has an obsession with aviation, business, family, and everything in between. And most importantly, he is documenting his journey as a personal brand on X. The Chief of NKD Viking is one of the most interesting, unique, and intelligent human beings I've invited on the show. Gabriel Lindh, welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thank you. What an intro. Thank you.
So yeah, man, let's hop right into it. I
Sounds
know
good.
that you started NKT Viking because of a problem that you and your brother faced, ironically with swim short chafing. So tell me about the origin story of your struggle with the chafing and what inspired you to start your e-commerce brand.
So we started this brand because both me and my brother are we're on the bigger side. So we work out a lot. He's an ice hockey player. We're both over 6 feet, well over 200 pounds, and we have just very big legs. And we always had this problem where we would, chafe while we're going to the beach, especially if we wore the swim shorts for a long period of time. And, if we would work out, it would be, you know, just chafing constantly, and it would burn and you would get salt water on it. It would be horrible.
Uh-huh.
So we thought that we would do something where we could solve this problem. Obviously, we pretty quickly found out that people already do something like this. So we thought, can we be a little bit different? And that's where we came up with using our own, heritage as Swedish people, as Vikings, and including some of our humor into that, where we joke around and we just show our funny side. And that's how we decided to start building. It's actually called Naked Viking, and I'll explain why it's called Naked Viking. And then yeah, that's how we started building that brand.
Oh, okay. Naked Viking. That's interesting, actually. Could you
Yeah.
go a little bit more into like the heritage aspect of it and how that kind of got off the ground?
Yeah, so the reason why we call it Naked Viking is first we wanted to call it actual Naked Viking, but we did a Google search and some things that came up were things that maybe we didn't want to be in the search results when we searched. So we thought we have to do it a little bit differently so we don't get this inappropriate search results with our website. So that's why we went with NKD. But the theory behind it is that we wanted to create swim shorts that are so comfortable that it feels like that you're naked. And then we wanted to uh, use Viking because we're Swedish and we're Vikings and we have Scandinavian heritage. So that's how kind of the name started. And then we want to spread that out over our business kind of.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is like it's ingrained into your heritage. It's something that you and your brother kind of, struggled with. So like was there like a defining experience or like memory that you have that kind of sparked the idea in your head? Like do you like just one time or one day that got the idea and you acted upon it and you're like, this is what we want to do? Or was it kind of just like another situation where this could be a good idea, and then you kind of started building it out, alongside your 9 to 5 with your aviation stuff like that.
There's one specific day that pushed this idea forward a lot, but even after that day, it took me a lot of years until I actually started acting on the business idea. But there was one day where I was with my friend John. We were in Sydney, Australia, and we were gonna uh, do a walk that's from, I think it was called Coogee Beach to Bondi Beach, and that's a walk that I don't remember how long it took, but it was a while, and it was 38 degrees outside. It was scorching. I was sweating, and I was wearing my swim shorts because we'd been swimming at Coogee Beach, and then we're gonna do the walk to Bondi Beach, and it was so warm. I was so sweating, and I was chafing so bad. And there's actually a picture of me. You don't see that I'm chafing, but there's a picture of me where I'm standing behind him, and I'm kind of walking like a penguin, because keeping my legs apart because it's just burning so bad, and I can't wait to get to the water. And then I jump in the water, and the water's pretty cold up on that beach, so it's like 38 degrees down to 20 degrees of water temperature, and then you jump in, and then it just starts burning even more because I guess the salt water came into the scratched skin, and that kind of was like, shit, I need to do something about this. But then, I was just starting to become a pilot and all that, so it kind of extended until now. So now I actually started acting on that idea.
No, okay, okay. And so, since you've kind of just started acting on the idea, do you have any advice for like an aspiring entrepreneur that has like, a lot of ideas running through their heads of like businesses they could start? And like, do you have any advice for them to get started and overcome that beginner's hell?
I think that what I always like is to test the idea that you have, because testing a business idea you can do, you know, over a weekend really. I mean, even in a day you can really test it, and then or just a couple of days. So there's this entrepreneur called Noah Kagan, and he has this thing that he calls, create a business in 48 hours. And what he talks about there is that you want to make sure you get some sales or some form of thing that shows that there is demand for your product. So what we did with Naked Viking was that we just had the idea. We didn't have a name. We didn't have a website. We didn't have anything. We just had the idea. And what we did was that we collected a list of people that we think would be interested in this. And that, I don't know how big that list was, but that list ended up being X number of people. And then we just reached out to them and said, hey, we have this business idea. We want to start this. What do you think? Are you willing to buy a pair with the condition that it will take months for you to get those, because we don't have anything yet. We don't have a product, nothing. And some people said no and thought this was like some scam or something, or we were, in some kind of business scam. And some people said yes, and some people never heard from. And then we tested that, and we got a couple of $100 in sales. And that's when we made the decision that maybe this is not, maybe we haven't proved yet that this is a $1 million idea, but we've proved enough to explore further to see where we can take this, because people were willing to exchange money for something that they might get in the future. And so that's what we did. And then we collected the payments, just did a normal, here in Sweden we have a thing called Swish. In the US it's similar to Venmo, so they just transfer money to you. We put it in an account, and then we just had that as this is our verification of demand for our product, and then we built from here.
Yeah, so like beginner's health does not have to be a long drawn out process. You can literally just like as you said, put out like a survey or put out like some kind of reach out, like cold outreach to the prospects that you can find, make a list of people that could genuinely benefit from your product. So just do some research, find those people, put them into a list. And then once you have that list gathered together, you just send out, messages to them asking if they genuinely be interested in buying the product. And then that's kind of how you validate the idea. And it also saves you time in the future because people, that people want it, and you don't have to like invest your time and energy into a product that people don't even want. So not only does it help you test out the idea, but it gets you out of beginner hell. So it's kind of like a win-win. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
dope, dude.
And
Do you have any tip? Go ahead. Yeah.
no, and it's yeah, it's just because people spend so much time on ideas that really are never validated, and then they waste weeks, months, a lot of money, and then they don't get anywhere. Find out that people don't want this, and but it's uncomfortable to reach out to your friends and people you don't know really well and say, hey, do you want to buy this? And some are gonna say no, and it's that's why I think people get stuck sometimes, because it's makes you nervous and uncomfortable. It made me nervous and uncomfortable, but decided to push through it. I'm nervous for this podcast interview today as well, but I still
You're doing
decided
great.
to to focus on making it through and face that nervousness and that fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, this is your first podcast about me. For the second one, you're going to be like 50 times better already just because you've gone through it now,
Thanks.
and you took that leap, you took that leap, uh, reached out to me, and now you're here. And that's awesome, man. So I guess like before we dive into the next stage of the podcast, I want to ask you about like what that research process looked like. So like, how did you decide what prospects you wanted to reach out to like validate the product? So how did you do that?
So first thing I did was thought about my friends and my brother, who's my co-founder. Maybe I didn't say that, but I have my brother as well, who's my co-founder. So he thought about his friends. I thought about my friends, and he's an ice hockey player, and they all have big legs. So we thought, reach out to your friends and see what they say. And he actually got the most paid customers that we have so far, uh, and so he reached out to them. So it's basically just people with bigger legs than we think about. Don't have to be, well trained. It could be people that, are bigger from not, training or anything like that. But it's mostly, we're focusing on ice hockey players. We're focusing on football players, people that go to the gym, people that eat a lot, things like that is. And then we just created that list of friends, their friends, asked my mom if she knew someone. I asked, people at work. I have colleagues that are on my list. It's basically just mostly people that me and my brother know at this point, but we were just working within our sphere of influence, so to speak.
Fear of, I'm sorry, what?
Sphere of influence, like what our network basically. So uh, we have an X number of people that we can reach out to, and those were the ones that we reached out to see if they were interested. And then we tried to extend that a little bit by asking people who were not interested, who were interested, if they knew someone who might be interested in this.
Yeah. So it's just that network effect, right? Of having all these people that you already know, right? Like they're a few like connections down the line, but you kind of already know them. You're already connected to them, so you don't have to send cold outreach to validate a product. You can, like stay within your friend group, and then, walk down the line to their friends, and so it's like not completely cold. It's kind of like warm validation almost, which is interesting because it reduces the nerves. I feel like because you're not just asking random strangers how good your product is or if they would actually buy your product. You're asking people that you kind of know, which I think, at least for me, would make me feel more comfortable. I don't know how that made you feel though.
Yeah, I think so. It's yeah, it definitely. I mean, anything to do whatever you can to get to a point where you get over that fear and that hurdle of reaching out to people, and whatever makes you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you're asking your mom about like people that she could possibly reach out to that would buy your product, I mean, that's like literally so low friction, right? There's like almost no fear in that because she's doing the reach out. You're just asking her for like her help, and that's easy, right? So that's
Yeah,
like an easy first step you could use to validate products.
yeah.
And moving on to more of like your life right now, what is it like to be an entrepreneur and a pilot at the same time? And how do you balance the two roles?
It's it's sometimes a little bit of a challenge, especially when you have daily tasks that you want to complete. So I have, for example, one of my daily tasks is engaging on X, and that can be difficult sometimes when I'm out flying and 15 hours of the day are spent in the air. But the nice thing with being a pilot is that I work about 2 weeks and then I'm 2 weeks off. And so I have an enormous amount of time to work on my business and to spend time with my family. And then I get a nice salary as well, which helps me invest some of the money into the business. But it certainly has its challenges, and it's, time zone differences and things like that can make it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But having that 2 week on, 2 week off is actually kind of an interesting dynamic because there's 2 weeks where you're off are probably like all in on the business, I'd imagine. Because whenever you're flying, it's like way too complex to do everything. Like the only thing you could probably be doing is like the engagement and maybe like one post a day, I'd imagine, whenever you're on those 2 weeks flying as a pilot. But like what does the other 2 weeks look like where you're going all in on your e-commerce brand?
So I'm under the philosophy that because a lot of people do this where they get up. I mean, I don't have a problem against getting up early. I actually prefer getting up early, but some people get up early, then they do their routine. They do, journaling. They do their ice bath. They do their workout. They have a list that takes them 3 hours to complete, and then they start working. And I'm more under the impression that if you just wake up, have breakfast, or get a coffee, and then just get immediately to work. You can get up I got up at 10 today, 10 a.m. here in Sweden, and I started working immediately. And I usually start with X, engaging there, and then I just work through the day, take some breaks here and there. I focus more on the efficiency of the hour, like working efficiently for 1 hour instead of working 10 hours, but I'm scrolling on Instagram,
Yeah.
and I'm looking
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Facebook, watching YouTube videos, things like that. I mean, I still do that sometimes, but I try to minimize that as much as possible and reduce distractions and things like that. So it's not like I'm sitting 10 hours a day working on the business, but I try to focus on what is the most important task today, how can I complete that most efficiently. And when you do that, I kind of realized that the most important things can be completed in like 3 or 4 hours of just focused work, where you just don't look at your phone. You just are left alone. No one interrupts you, and you don't interrupt yourself or distract yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you've gotten monk mode down to a science, don't you? I don't know if you've heard of monk mode. It's basically like it's no distractions. It's focused for a very extended amount of time. So I guess it's a little bit more extreme than what you're doing, but you have like those little small monk mode sessions where you're just going all in on your work, no distractions, nothing. And I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit more into your routine. So you said that you wake up and then you eat breakfast or grab a coffee, because a lot of gurus out there kind of say like you cannot eat breakfast or you cannot consume anything before you work because it makes you lose focus. So is that a problem that you face whenever you have breakfast or you have something before you get to your work?
I, depending on if I'm, flying or not, because I try to fast. So sometimes I eat breakfast a couple of hours. I just have a coffee and eat breakfast a couple of hours later. But I don't think I really lose focus. If anything, it makes me more focused because I feel like I get energy. Um, but I don't. I mean, it also depends on what you eat. I try to eat healthy and things like that as well. If you plow down I don't know, Big Mac with French fries for breakfast, then you might feel worse than if you're eating yogurt with some berries and have a boiled egg and some avocado. So I think it's a lot more about what you eat rather than like actually eating and feeling tired.
Yeah, because like if you're eating a bunch of carbs or you're eating the Big Mac, you're gonna be like sleepy. Like you're not gonna be as focused. But if you're eating food that like fuels you, gives you energy, then yeah, you're gonna be focused. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
totally cool. Uh, So it's interesting actually, because I want to know what your diet looks like whenever you're on for the 2 week shift and when you're off for the 2 week shift. So like, what does it look like to be a pilot versus just like a full time entrepreneur?
In terms of food.
Yeah, as a diet
Yeah.
for terms of
Uh,
diet.
so when I fly, it's the food we get on the plane is a lot better than the food that you get. I've never flown business class yet, but it's a lot better than food you get in economy. So we
Mhm.
have real meals with like real meat. It's not, it's in a proper presented to you in a proper way, and it's you can eat anything really. I mean, they have fish, they have meat, they have vegetarian. There's water. You can even drink Coke if you want, and there's chips and things like that as well. But I try to stay away from processed foods. So I try to eat. I mean, I can eat bad food sometimes as well, but I try to eat, healthy greens, fruit, vegetables. Try to eat a lot of protein for my workouts. I Protein is probably what I'm focused most on when it comes to eating.
Yeah, same.
But and then when I'm here, it's also a lot of focus on eating protein, so like real, beef, eggs, chicken, and then I eat that with sometimes with pasta and rice, and a healthy amount of vegetables. And then I usually eat 2 times a day, or I eat within a 6 to 8 hour window, where I eat several times through that window, just to get the protein in, because I try to eat about 200 grams of protein a day. And not that I meet that every day, but that's what I aim for.
Wow,
That
that's
can
an
be
amazing goal.
that
Yeah.
can be challenging in the 6 to 8 hour window.
Yeah, it is definitely. That's interesting. So, are you eating all that protein because like you're lifting or something? Because I think I saw a couple posts about like gym. So, like, what's that all about? And what does that schedule look like? Because I'm assuming you don't work out as much whenever you're piloting.
I The workouts actually haven't been that difficult when I fly, because almost all the hotels I stay at have a gym, so I just go there and work out. But I usually have there's 4 types of workouts that I do. I work out 4 times a week, and I do it's a heavy focus on chest, but I do a lot of cardio, so running. So I run once a week. I run at least 3.5 to 5 miles, somewhere in between that, and then I do something that I don't really have a name for it, but it absolutely destroys my chest, which is incline bench press.
I love a cloud bench.
Yeah, incline bench press, which is you do that, and I usually either you do 5 or 10 depending on the weight, and then you go immediately over to push-ups and do 20 push-ups, and then you go immediately over to the plank. So you go into the plank, and when you're doing that 1 minute plank, because I do 1 minute, I the chest burns so bad. You're not even like, it's just, I don't know what it is, but it just burns this upper area here when you're in that plank after you just did those incline bench presses and those and then the push-ups. And then I do a modified version of the Murph. I don't know if you've heard of the Murph.
Yeah, perfectly, Murph. I've never tried it before though.
Yeah, so it's a modified version. I did that yesterday, and I can't do 100 pull-ups yet, and especially not with a weighted vest of 20 pounds. So what I'm doing is, lat pull downs, where you pull down like that. And so I do that, and then I do 10 of that, and then 20 push-ups, 30 squats, and then I just do a round of that 10 times, and then with a 1 mile run before and a 1 mile run afterwards. So that's
That
kind of
sounds
what,
intense.
yeah, it is intense. My mom told me yesterday after I worked out, she said, maybe you shouldn't push yourself to the limit every time you work out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how you're supposed to do it, right? You're supposed to go to failure every single time and push yourself a little bit harder every single time.
Yeah, it's it's challenging, but you also feel really good afterwards. And when you see the results, when you look yourself in the mirror, is very pleasing, and it feels very good.
So I'm running really long distance. So I'm training for a marathon that's happening in January. And ironically, I started X like around a month ago. And that's when I started training for this marathon. And twice a week I did 10 plus mile runs. And these runs literally changed my mindset completely because the longer the runs become, the more of a mental game it becomes. And what I've realized is that the runs translate to my work because whenever I'm feeling lazy, I don't want to write a tweet or I don't want to engage or something like that. The runs actually give me motivation because I'm like thinking to myself, I just ran these 10 miles and I just like mentally pushed myself to the limit. Why can't I do this with my work? And so I guess I want to ask if that's the same kind of feeling for you whenever you're working out. Like, does it kind of translate to your business and your work for your e-commerce store?
It definitely does. First of all, mad respect to you for training for a marathon. I've never run more than 10 miles in one go. And I know that those 10 miles were difficult. And just running, I don't know how many miles it is, but I know it's 42 kilometers, but 26 miles, whatever it is it's intense. But I definitely have where the more I work out and the harder I go on the workouts, the better it goes and the harder I go on the business. I also, when I work out, I don't know if it's healthy to do this, but I mentally, verbally insult myself that, if I can't do a push up, it's like, come on, I mean, anyone can do a push up, but, I try to push myself and insult myself. I'm not going to say what I say to myself, but I say some things just to, push myself, and that has definitely transferred to my work with flying, studying for flying, and also for working on Naked Viking and e-commerce and things like that.
Yeah, that's dope. I think, yeah, just staying active, doing hard things is just so good because business is hard. And the more hard things you do outside of business, the better prepared you are for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, is there a future where you'd go all in on Naked Viking and step away from aviation? Or is it something that you kind of want to do together?
There's definitely a future where I would go all in on Naked Viking. Absolutely. The reason why I started with business was because of one book that I read that's called The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco.
I
If you
love
haven't
that
read
book.
it yet, you should read it. That kind of changed the way I think about life and how I approach things in life. And it just created this desire to have, I mean, I might fly, but just getting to a point where you don't have to worry about, money. You don't have to worry about, you can focus on freedom. If you want to fly, if you want to relax all day, if you want to spend time with family, it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want every day without having to worry about the money side of things. And that's where, because family is very important to me and my girlfriend and things like that. So I then I can focus all on that, or on my business or on flying or whatever it might be. I just want to get to that point where I don't have to worry financially. Not that I have to now, but if like with most people, if they lose their job, then they have to go and find a new job.
Mhm.
So that's something that I just want to have that financial security, and then health as well. So I want to focus on being healthy. Uh, that's why I work out. That's why I try to eat healthy, and things like that. But definitely, I would love to get to a point where flying becomes not a necessity, but just something I do because I want to and because it's fun. And maybe I'll even get a private jet if it, or private little aircraft. Who knows? One day, if it turns out to be really successful, Naked Viking or any other business that I might have in the future.
Yeah, the private jet dream. And you could pilot it, couldn't you? I mean, what is it a different license or something?
I could fly it. It's not a different license, but I need to do a training on that specific aircraft. So in flying, it's think of it kind of like driving a car, but You can't drive every car that's on the road. You can only drive the car that you've been trained on.
Right. Yeah.
So if I, for example, I fly a Boeing, I'm about to start now flying a Boeing 777, which is a big commercial airliner. And I trained on flying on that aircraft, but I can't fly an Airbus, for example, because I haven't trained on an Airbus.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially for aviation. Like, you want the pilot to know what the plane is, how it functions, stuff like that, for sure, because that's like pretty important role to be playing.
Yeah. It,
Okay, digging deeper into your brands, like your e-commerce brand. Uh, I was reading through your pin post actually. So like when I first started my research, I just went to your profile and I read through your pin post, and I think it kind of sums up your mission pretty well. So I'll read through it real quick. The logo for Naked Viking is finally done. Wonder what it means? It's inspired by the runic script. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but it's Wanjo, symbolizing happiness plus harmony. Our goal is to spread happiness and laughter and ensure comfortable, chafe-free swimwear, creating harmony in your pants.
yeah.
Could you elaborate on what Wanju means to you?
Yes. And so the logo that you is attached to that, or the picture of the logo that's attached to that post, is based on the runic script Wuncho, which means joy, happiness, and that's kind of what we want to create with our business through you know, laughter, our jokes, our shorts. We want to create Wunjo. We want to create happiness. So that's kind of the story that we tell behind our logo, and that's how we kind of came up with that. It took a long time to figure all this out, but we wanted to have something, an inspiring story or something that would be like, oh, this is not just another logo. This is not just something. There's actually a story and something, a meaning behind it. You know.
Yeah, especially for like your brand message, it's super powerful because you could have a prospect or like on your website, you could have like an entire section about just a logo and like what it represents, and that just adds an entire new layer to your brand. Because most brands just have like a logo, right? But the meaning behind it, especially Wujo, is so powerful, right? Like joy and laughter, and you actually embody that within your brand. Yeah, super super powerful. I love that.
And it's also because I feel like a lot of businesses today, especially small ones, they just start and then they don't really have anything that differentiates themselves. And it doesn't have to be difficult. They can just find something that, because everyone is different. So there's always something with you or with your heritage that you can use to your advantage to create something that makes you different and stand out from everyone else. And it doesn't have to be a lot, especially in the beginning, because it's an evolving thing. So we might add things. We have a lot of ideas of how we can differentiate ourselves. But I think that you should start with what you have and how you are different, what's unique about you, and how you can use that in your brand, in your business, and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, you've got to find your unfair advantage, right? The thing that only you have, that only you possess, that makes you stand out from everybody else, and nobody else can ever replicate that. And so, obviously, like your personality and your face and who you are is already an unfair advantage. But finding something with deeply ingrained within your like heritage, so like that's what you did with Naked Viking, right? Even with the logo, it's all these aspects that nobody else can replicate, no matter how hard they try. And it's so authentic to you. That's how you stand out. And I guess from like not just a business standpoint, but from like a content creation standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to just leverage the uniqueness that you have as a person and bring that into your brand. And so like has like Wuncho and those kind of principles of joy translate to your personal brand, like jokes, laughter? Have they translated to your personal brand on X in any way?
To a certain extent, I mean, the purpose of right now for my brand on X and my personal brand is just to create a following. But I've noticed with especially many people on like in the DMs, they try to sell a lot, and it's a lot of pitching, and there are a lot of people as well that don't pitch and they just want to talk, and that's awesome. But I try what I try to do in my brand is just share the journey of building Naked Viking. So and some days there's not so much to post about because there's not, revolutionary progress every day. It doesn't really, some days are really mundane and boring where nothing really happens. And I can't just write today I worked on the website, and today I worked on Lima. That makes it really boring. So I post about stuff that interests me. I post about stuff that I do in my life. And then occasionally I try to post about the journey of building Naked Viking and how, for example, we're right now trying to build our email list. I'm trying to build a lead magnet that is useful for people who chafe. I just I just started, creating that, or working with ideas and things like that. And so it definitely translates, and it kind of, I wanted to connect because I want to share the journey, but I also want to have where I can, if Naked Viking doesn't work out, I still have this personal brand that I can utilize for my next business venture if Naked Viking were to not work out. Because you never know, right? I mean, I don't know what the statistic is, but most businesses fail, or 99% of businesses fail or go bankrupt within the first 10 years or whatever it is. So the odds are not stacked; they're heavily stacked against us. And
Yeah.
then if you have a personal brand, you don't start from zero. You already have a group of people. You might even have an email list, that you can utilize to at least not start from zero.
Yeah, a personal brand's everything, I think. Like, fundamentally, if you before you even start your business, if you have a personal brand, you already have an unfair advantage, because a lot of business owners, they kind of just start with like e-commerce, dropshipping, or whatever, right? They start with some kind of business model, and then they try to grow that, which I personally think is a mistake, because your highest form of leverage is your unfair advantage, which is you. And if you can build a brand around yourself, and then maybe make your brand kind of like the face of your business. So in your case, you'd be like you're the face of Naked Viking. And that is the best way to do it. I think now in the modern era, like especially now, because with AI and everything like that, you want to be able to stand out. And you do that by just being yourself and putting yourself out there as like the face of the brand. I love that. And there's something that you mentioned about, what was it? Ideating and not having, post ideas all the time. So I feel like a lot of content creators slash entrepreneurs struggle a lot with content creation, especially writers on the next, the writer's block. They just like don't have any ideas of what to write about. And especially for you, whenever you're building a business along with a personal brand, if there's something exciting happening in business, then I guess theoretically that means you have nothing to post about. But I love that you mentioned you basically post about the business whenever there's something cool happening. But then whenever there isn't anything exciting happening, you just inject some personality into the posts. You post about your life. I know you posted about going out to the range with your dad. I mean, it's like those kind of posts are still super valuable because you're building a personal brand, and that's the magic, right, of meshing personal brand with business. Because
Yeah.
you can never like run out of ideas or anything like that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I do. That's otherwise I wouldn't be posting. I post every day, and otherwise I wouldn't be posting every day. And want to have that personal part of it because it's called, after all, personal brand. So you're supposed to have some form of personal thing in the brand you're building, right? And but I'm kind of just figuring things out, and just I post the people schedule posts and things like that as well, where they have posts scheduled. I don't do that at all. I just wake up. Sometimes I know the evening before what I want to post about, but most days I just wake up and then I just post whatever happens during the day, or what, something. I usually just sit while I'm about to for me, it takes like 5-10 minutes to write a post, and I just take out my phone and then just start writing, and then I post that. It's rarely where I have post schedule ahead of time and put in a schedule. Some people might not like that. Some people might not, you know, think that's stupid, but it works for me, and I think it adds kind of a personal touch to it, where you don't just plan everything out all the time.
Yeah, it's like it's just more authentic. It's more real, right? It's because we're humans. We live day to day, and it's like whenever you batch out posts, it's like you're gonna force the content engine to run. And I think like yeah, it's just more personal. It's more authentic whenever you're just posting as you go. And honestly, it's more fun because like imagine sitting down. I mean, most people when they batch their content, they sit down on Sunday, and then they essentially just sit there for like hours on end, just typing away, coming up with posts, and then scheduling them for the week. Some people do it for like a month in advance, which is absolutely mind blowing. And then it's like they step away from their social media, which I guess is fair because they can focus on like the business rather than the content creation. But from a personal brand aspect, it loses its touch because you're stepping away from the brand. It's not like an authentic reflection of what's actually happening in your life. And so I love the way you do it, where you post based off of like as you go. You wake up every morning and you just write what you're feeling. That's just so much more authentic. I love that.
Thank you.
And so I guess there's this next post that I really, really love. And I think it's super relevant to like the mesh between business and personal brand. And it's so genius. I love this idea. It's the idea of building in public. And I was a huge fan of the tweet that you posted. I think it was a few days ago. And so here it is. You said, here's an update. We got our samples for our swim shorts. This is only the first iteration, so we can't expect too much. For example, the logo is too big and we want to change the material of the shorts, but we have to start somewhere. What do you think? And so I just like wanted to ask about the journey, right? From ideating for these shorts, getting the product, designing the product, and then bringing it to life. And then now you have an actual tangible thing that you can feel. Like, what was that experience like for you?
It was extremely exciting. We were super excited when they were coming, and we recorded it because we wanted to do kind of like an unboxing video. Uh, and then we opened it, and the shorts were good, but it wasn't really what we expected. So it kind of turned a little bit into disappointment, but then it turned into a good thing because we had something that we could touch, and we had a baseline that we could work with, and we realized that okay, we need to change some things in the design here, and we need to change the logo, and we need like not the logo but the size of the logo. We need to uh, you know we didn't tell them that, but we just took for granted that that person would understand that, and we also understood, yeah, like the manufacturer, that they need to, you know, they can't just see what we're thinking because there are some things that we assumed they would know, but they didn't know. So it kind of highlighted how specific we need to be with how we want the shorts. So we made this, and it took forever to get these as well. So this manufacturer was real pain to get these, go like these shorts. So, that's the biggest problem we've had, is finding someone who's willing to make these shorts and not require that we order, 1,000 or 10,000 samples in one go. Not maybe like once we make our first batch of orders, and because we don't want to, you know, we want to start with something that's a little bit lower, where we don't have to, maybe we can order 100, but not 1,000 or 10,000. So it's amazing that we have these shorts now, but we also realized that there's a lot of work that has to be done on the shorts, stuff that we didn't expect, things that, and it's all taken longer than we anticipated. But I think that's the case with most things you do. You think, oh, it's going to take this long, and then it takes longer. But yeah, it's amazing that we actually have something with our logo on it, and it's something you can touch and feel, and that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's like the product is actually here. Like this is something that someone could buy, you know? That's so powerful. I guess we could dig in a little bit more into like the e-commerce side of things. So like how did you go about finding the manufacturer, building that relationship, and then I guess you could touch a little bit on the design process of the shorts themselves. Like how was that entire system?
So in terms of finding a manufacturer, which is still a work in progress, because we had this one, but there were some things we didn't like. For example, that they take a long time. It takes a long time for them to respond. The shipping said it would take 15 days, but it took like a month. Things like that. So, uh, but we just started by googling, swim shorts manufacturers, and started creating a list again of people that or businesses that seem interesting, writing to them, talking with them. Um, yeah, just kind of like that. And I would post on X as well to see if someone knew anyone that might be interested, and I got some tips from that way. And then you just start reaching out. But it's a fine process, and it's challenging, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. I mean, we all kind of don't really know what we're doing. You know, every human on the planet, but you try to figure things out, and you try to learn from your previous mistakes, and then you kind of just move forward from that. But it's uh, it's a work in progress, and it's challenging.
Yeah, us humans, we have no idea what's going on, but we figure it out along the way anyway,
Yeah,
and that's what I think that's what gives life meaning, right? Just figuring things out and living with our fellow humans to face the problems that we have and solving them. That's why I love entrepreneurship so much, right? It's just
yeah,
like we're problem solvers. We're the ones that innovate and make life better, reduce suffering, right? That's
yeah,
why I love entrepreneurs. That's why I love the whole idea of doing it. Even though, like, there is the whole school path. Like I'm going to college in a few weeks actually, and I'm not looking forward to it. But something that gives me a little solace is the fact that I have this business on the side that I can build, right? And that gives me some kind of energy because now it's like I've started this over the summer. I've been doing it for a couple months, and now that school is about to start up again, I'm now in the same boat as someone like you who is working, the piloting job. But I'll be going to school at the same time with the business. So it's like I'll finally have to really double down and figure out, okay, what are the most important tasks I need to do for this business, right? What do I need to figure out? What kind of problems do I need to solve? It's got to be hard, all these things to figure out, but that's the point, right?
yeah.
That's the point of doing this. So, yeah, I love that.
It's whatever you do, it's gonna be hard, and you just take it one step at a time and figure it out, and take it slow, and whatever pace you want it at, take it at, and then you just go on.
Yeah, and that's ironic because the next tweet that I was going to read out was about the two most valuable lessons that you found throughout your journey as an entrepreneur. And so you said that one was build your audience as soon as possible, even if you don't know what you want to build. Just document your journey. And then two, this is the one, take it one small step at a time. How did you learn these lessons and dig into each one? So, like, I guess we can start with building an audience, and then you can talk about small steps.
So building an audience is, I don't think MJ DeMarco mentioned that in the book, but I'm on the Fastlane forum, and I think he talks about the best thing you can do is just to start building your audience. Uh, Even if you just want to have a social online presence, but don't know, or maybe you don't even want to build a business, but you just know you want to be online, and maybe you want to build a business in the future, but you don't know what, or you're already building a business. But if you build your audience, I think that then you already start the process of connecting with people and networking. getting people interested in you as the personal brand, even though you maybe don't have a business yet. And then once the day comes where you do build a business, then you already have that trust, being authentic, social proof, where you can, maybe not a lot of people, but you can get a lot of people to be interested in whatever it is you are planning on selling or creating, or they maybe know someone, and it can, you can spread it a lot faster. So anyone who has any desire for entrepreneurship, or having a personal brand, but you don't know what it should be about, just start posting about your life. Just document your your journey of I don't know. If you're a pilot, you can document your journey of flying, and you can talk about the hotels you're in and take pictures and videos. Or you with college, you talk about your life in college, or whatever it might be. It could be anything. That's the great thing. You can choose whatever you want. You can make it about whatever you want. You can twist it the way you want. Because there's always someone, maybe not in the beginning, but there will be someone who's interested in your stuff and will read it. And that's what the thought was behind building an audience. Even though you don't know what you want to do, just start.
Absolutely. Starting is everything. And
The
go ahead.
second,
Yeah, small steps at a time.
take it one step at a time. That's the phrase that I use whenever something is difficult. I think I even have it in my bio. Take it one step at a time. That's when things become really overwhelming. A lot of things are happening at the same time. I use it when I'm in the simulator in the aircraft, and engines are burning and alarms are going off, and my captain is incapacitated. When we're training for that, I just go, okay, take it one step at a time. What's the most important thing I can do right now? What's the most high value thing I can do right now? And it doesn't have to be that I do the entire thing. What is just one small step I can take to make the situation a little bit better? And then once you take that step, because then okay, so I made it that a little bit, because usually you know what the first step is. And even if it's not in the right direction, even if you go in the wrong direction, eventually find out you went in the wrong direction, and you could just turn around and go into the other direction. Sounds easier than what I made. Like, it's not as easy as it sounds, but that's what I try to do. What is the one step that I can take to make this a little bit better? What's the one step that I can do to move forward? And that's the phrase I always fall back on, especially when things get tough and a lot of things happening at the same time, and you're being shot at from several different angles.
Yeah. I have a whole creative little way I can tie this into, I guess, my whole running thing. So there's a strategy that long distance runners use whenever they're training, or even when like during the actual marathon, where they'll look at like a landmark. So like this could be a lamp post or like a building or something in the future, right? Like a few steps ahead of them, or like 100 meters ahead of them, and they'll look at it and they'll internalize in their mind, that's where I need to run to, and once I get there, I can stop. And then but just before they get there, they tell themselves, they find another landmark, and then they tell themselves, okay, just all I have to do is make it to that next one. And then it bounces, it bounces, it bounces until you're done with the race. And I think that's just like the perfect way to view like one small step at a time. Just find like one tiny little win, one tiny little goal for yourself to reach. And once you get there, just like give yourself a little bit of motivation, right? Because you're there. You promised yourself that you can stop, but you just need to go a little bit further. And so just finding those milestones, finding those points where you can just like commit yourself to just a little bit extra is super, super powerful. And as far as audience building goes, I used to be an ex growth guru. Okay. My brand used to be the X Marathon. I actually only changed my banner like a couple days ago. It used to be the X Marathon. And that was my brand from the get go. My first post was literally me running shirtless, filming myself talking about the X Marathon and how I'm going to get to 10K a month by teaching people how to grow. Coaching coaches how to coach other coaches, essentially. And people fell in love with it, right? Because it's something personal and something interesting. Nobody's done it before. I stood out for everybody, and people loved it. People loved the idea of doing a marathon, and the fact, and I basically wove it into my actual journey because I basically told the story of how I'm doing this X marathon at the same time as my real life marathon, and so my audience blew up because of just that storyline. And so yeah, it's just like about finding something that makes you unique and then going all in on it.
Yeah, it is. And you don't need, like, when you post the first time, you don't even need to have that thing that makes you unique. You can figure it out along the way. Just start posting. Just start, get going, take that first step. Uh, you know, move forward, and it might just be a very small step out of millions of steps that you're gonna have to take. But at least the old classic cliche thing. Uh, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, or something like that. And it's true. It's true. Just start.
Yeah, I always find like those cliche kind of quotes are at their core so fundamental. Like they're so true. Like there's nothing you could say that disproves the quote. This, even though they sound super cliche, like you probably don't want to do affirmations reading those quotes, but like when you read them, like feel them, because there's such fundamental truth within them. And speaking of quotes, you have this really good. Oh, it's not technically a quote; it's a question, but I think it still applies. If you knew you would succeed, how much more time and effort would you put into it to get there earlier? What was the inspiration behind this question? And what would your answer be?
The thing, if you know that you will succeed, but let's say it would take 1,000 days for you to succeed, but you know the success will happen within like on the thousandth day, day thousand, you're going to succeed. But you have to. It's 1,000 days of working. How quickly would you make sure that you actually work and do the work required every day, 1,000 days, so you get there within 1,000 days and don't do it in 3,000 days or 2,000 days because you only work every other day. So if you know that success is coming, then you would work every day on those 1,000 days to get there as quickly as possible, which is 1,000 days, instead of working every other day and getting there, like doubling the time. And that was something that I thought about just when, like any other day, where it's not something I planned. I just wrote it where I read it somewhere, something similar, and then I just paraphrased it and added my own little twist to it. Where, I mean, imagine how hard you would work if you knew that you would succeed. And you can pretty much, if you don't, you know, God forbid, die, then you could pretty much make it 100% success rate if you just keep going, if you just
Right.
show up every day. I can't tell you if it's going to be 1,000 days, or if it's going to be 10 days, or if it's going to be 100 days, or whatever it might be. But if you just keep going, and then you can make success 100, like make the success rate 100%, because as long as you're alive, obviously. I mean, that's the one requirement. So that was kind of the thought behind it.
Mm. Yeah.
Just focus on, yeah.
Um, you mentioned something about where you found the quote, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this because it's a super controversial thing where people are like complaining about how they copy each other and like their templates and stuff for like posts on X. And so, give me your perspective on the idea of like reusing and stealing like an artist, and you know what role that plays within your own kind of personal brand, because you got inspiration for this quote or for this question from somewhere else, but then you repurposed it and added your little spice, your little flair to it. So what's that process look like for you?
I don't know. I don't think it's, unless you're directly quoting someone and you mention that person in the quote, I don't think it's, a great thing to just copy people. I think it's a good thing if you add your own little thing to it. It doesn't have to be big, or if you do your own little analysis or your own little conclusion from the quote or something like that. But I would always try to, add a little bit of extra to something. And I just, you read stuff, you see stuff, and then things pop in your head, and then you kind of, but you don't remember where you saw it, and then that's how you naturally turn it into your own little post, because you read it somewhere, but you don't remember where you read it, you don't remember exactly what it said, you just remember, you know, this is what the meaning of it was, and then you post that, and then you naturally kind of add your own little flair to it, because you don't really, at least for me, I don't remember everything I read everywhere. I just remember, oh, it was about that, or the quote said something like this, and then I post that, and then you naturally add kind of your own little flair to it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you never copy someone unless you mention that person in that post, and that you, I guess, quote it. And even then, I would say you add your own little thing at the bottom and say, what do you guys think of this? What, what conclusions do you draw from this quote, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that answers the question. I'd say I'm personally a huge proponent of still like an artist, at least from a content creation perspective, because you're not always going to have ideas, and your writing is fundamentally and not even influenced by your own intuition. It's influenced by what you consume. So it's like the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the movies you watch, they all contribute in some way to your writing. And so technically, I guess your writing isn't even your writing. It's just like a conglomeration of what you consume and what you have read. And by that logic, why can't you, you know, still like an artist and take ideas and principles from other people's writing, or like even, you know, very closely knit ideas, and then just add your twist to it? Like, I don't see the reason against it. But some people are just like really, really frustrated with the idea of taking templates or reusing frameworks or reusing ideas from other people. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's just a way of life. And I think as a content creator, you kind of just have to accept the fact that everyone's kind of copying each other and adding their own little flavor to it, and that's okay. So, yeah, that's the way I see it. And
I agree with
going
that.
back, yeah, going back to what you said about success, right? And success, like imagine that you were guaranteed success in a certain amount of time. I wanted to offer a different kind of perspective because there is this notion surrounding like gods and humans, where the gods, they're immortal, right? And they envy the mortality of humans because humans know, or humans don't know, like when they're gonna, whether they're gonna wake up tomorrow morning or whether they're gonna be dead. They have uncertainty in their lives, and then the gods envy this because the gods know that they will never die. So, in terms of success in business and content creation, whatever the heck, does the same idea apply? Do you think that, like, if you know you're going to succeed, then why would you try to work towards that success if you know it's going to happen?
I think that the prerequisite for, or I mean, I guess the prerequisite that I had with the post initially was that if you know you're going to, I only thought about it in my mind, but I never posted that in the actual post. But the prerequisite that you're going to succeed is only if you do the work that is required. So if you do the work and you do it for X number of days, whatever that might be, then you will succeed. But If you don't do the work, then you won't succeed, because nothing in this planet will just fall out of the sky into your lap and say, here is whatever the goal might be, success, money, fame. Um, it's so I think that could be an easy thing where if you're guaranteed success without doing the work, that something like that could happen, where people don't just work and just sit and wait out, if a universe like that would exist. But I think that the thought behind the post was more that if you work 1,000 days, doesn't matter, you could do those 1,000 days in, like, work 1,000 days in 5,000 days, but you don't work 4 days out of those 5,000 days every, if you know what I mean, then
Yeah.
you extend it, but you still reach it, but it takes 5,000 days instead of 1,000 days. So you still need to put in 1,000 days of work in order to get to that success. And yeah, that's kind of the thought behind it, I guess.
Okay, so it's about inputs, right?
Yeah.
You input this amount, then you output this. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I guess like talking about inputs into your business, like the work you put in, do you believe in luck? Do you think that the more input you put in, that the luckier you get as far as like outputs that are, I guess some would consider lucky? Because some people believe in luck, some people think it's complete BS, and it just comes down to how many reps you put in. So what's your perspective on luck in terms of business?
Uh, I haven't really, luck hasn't been really something that I thought about a lot in business or in anything, because I never think that I'm lucky, apart from the fact that I was maybe born into a first world country and I get to live. I never have to worry about food or anything like that. And I have a warm bed that I can sleep in, and a warm shower that I can take whenever I want. But I think about inputs a lot, where I try to disconnect the input from the output and just focus on the input. So with X and my personal brand is the input, posting once a day and making 50 engagements. And that's kind of the input that I put in every day in X, without really thinking about if this is going to go viral. I don't sit and think, is this post going to go viral? I mean, it would be cool if it did. It would be fun. And if I just keep doing it, it will eventually happen. But I don't think about how can I make my next viral post. I just post, and I know that with volume and learning, like improving and learning, I will eventually get to a point where I'll reach that viral post and where something will happen. I just don't know when it will happen, but it's at some point I will get there. Where, yeah, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense,
mean, yeah, absolutely, man. If you just kind of analyze your posts, like even though you don't necessarily think about virality, the way to go viral isn't by like forcing it. It's by posting a lot, not really worrying about it, and then looking back at the pull posts as data points, right? You view each post as like, okay, this one did well, this one got this many impressions, it got this many engagements, but this one did a little bit worse. And then you ask yourself why. Why did this happen? And you dig into that post, and then you figure out, okay, maybe the hook was good in this one. Maybe the conclusion in this lower performing post was kind of mid, so people didn't engage with it. And so you can almost force your luck. At least that's the way I see it. You can force your luck in terms of virality and force yourself to go viral by just iterating and learning and putting in more reps and inputs into figuring out what went right and what went wrong with your inputs. So I think, yeah, it's just a game of inputs and actually like using your inputs as data to iterate upon.
yeah,
That's at least the way I see it.
and that's a good way to see about it. I think. I just don't think. I think that it's not good to think about the outputs too much, especially in the beginning, because 99% of your posts are not going to go viral. They're not going to do massive amounts of, you know, they're not going to create, get a bunch of likes. People are going to share it. It's not like, your first, I've done, I don't know, I'm almost at 8,000 posts now, and I wouldn't consider any of them having gone really viral, like real viral, where you get thousands, hundreds of thousands of views and things like that. Hasn't happened. So what I focus on is just, like you said, post, iterate, see what worked with that post, what people liked, which is not always easy to figure out what people like because it's not really always written in the post. It might be just the timing and something that just sparked the algorithm for this. But I just focus on the inputs. People post a lot on X about that the algorithm sucks and blah, blah, blah. I completely ignore that and just go with, I post what I want, and then I try to post every day. And then if it goes viral, that's great. If it doesn't, then it will happen at some point in the future. I just know that within, as we talked about, the 1,000 days, as long as I do whatever set number of posts I need to do in order to get that first viral post, that first post that takes me to the next level, or maybe it's a collection of posts. Maybe it's that none of them really go viral. Maybe it's just that one does really well, and then I post another 1,000 posts, and then another one does really well, and then it kind of becomes this stepping stone that goes up and up and up, and then it kind of grows like that. I just know that as long as I put in the work to do the post, do the engagements, it's just a question of time when it will happen.
Yeah, it's not about luck at all. It's really just about time and inputs. And I guess question I'd like to know, not necessarily for me or you, but like for a beginner, right? Someone that just started fresh, they have their new X account, right? At least from your perspective, you have posted almost 8,000 times or 8,000 times. And looking back towards your earliest posts or like your earliest engagements or just like your first few days on X, what advice would you give to a beginner as far as like what they should be doing to like maximize their potential?
I think that they should, with my limited knowledge and experience, I would say that the only thing that you can do to, if you don't know what to post, if you know what to post, then post that. But if you don't really know, then just get started posting and read, engage with other people's posts, try to learn from what other people post about, and see how they make their thing stand out, because that might help you to find your thing that you can use to stand out. There's a guy, for example, on X, and he has a little bit over 1,000 followers, and he has a mustache, and he uses his mustache and his branding to make him unique. He has like a mustache that goes a little. It's different sometimes, but sometimes he has it where it goes up like this, and he uses that in his branding, and I think he even has it in his banner. And he found like a little thing that he can use to differentiate. And as when you start out, and just start easy, you don't even have to start with one post a day. Start with whatever works for you. And this goes for anything really. This is how, if it's running or working out, just start with what works for you, and then just go from there. And just take it one step at a time. Do one engagement, do one post once a week if that works for you. Post every day, post 3 times a day, whatever you want. But I would start light so you get it into the rhythm of doing it regularly, and then you can increase after a while. So I don't think I started posting every day, but I started, posting whenever something came to my mind. And then I'd say, okay, I need to post every day. And then that was a little bit difficult. And then I did, then, it was a challenge. And now it's a little bit easier. So now I come up with ideas a little bit easier. And then you keep going like that. And just start easy and start with what works with you, instead of going just, hardcore. I'm going to post 4 times a day, 7 days a week. Going to engage 500 times because, it's, I don't think it's gonna, for me, it wouldn't work. And I don't know if that's for most people, I don't think it would work. That's something that you can work up to by doing it for a long time. But it still takes, the time. It's, I mean, engaging 500 times, if someone does that, or just 100 times, it's a lot. If you want to make, I do 50 is what I aim for. And some people say you shouldn't have a goal of how many, but I need to quantify somehow the work I do. And I try to do 50 meaningful engagements. Are all of those engagements always meaningful? No, they rarely are. But I try to make it as meaningful as I can, and I try to come with value wherever I can.
Yeah, I think for a beginner, the best thing you can do, like before you post anything, is to post your first post. It doesn't matter how bad your first post is, because everyone's first post is bad. If you scroll back to Dan Coe's first post, I guarantee you it's dog shit. I guarantee you everyone's first post is bad. It doesn't matter who you are. And so you're just gonna get overcome that hurdle. Just post that first post, and then each successive post will just feel easier and easier to do. You gotta post that first post, send that first DM, send that first comment, and then from there it's like a snowball where it just gets easier and easier, and you just take it one step at a time. Right? You don't have to do 500 comments a day. Just tell yourself, okay, all I have to do is comment 5 times today, and then it's like progressive overload, right? 5 times today, and then maybe I'll do this for a couple of days, and then over the course of a week, you'll get really good at commenting for 5 times a day, and then you can double it, triple it, 15 comments a day, and then you'll get better and better at that, and eventually you get to the point where you're doing 50 good quality comments. It feels like nothing because you've progressively gotten to that point. And so as a beginner, it's not about like burning yourself out and turning yourself away from the whole like concentration engine by like trying to churn out 500 comments on your first day. And I think the mindset that a lot of people have as a beginner is they need to do this fast. Like they want to grow super fast, make money super fast. And I think that's why they fall into the trap of quantity in a huge amount of quantity early on. And it just doesn't lead you where you want to go, because it's hard to sustain that as a beginner. And so I think like starting doing it one step at a time, using your mindset one step at a time, starting slow and then progressively getting better is definitely the way to go, at least for a beginner.
I agree with parts of it, but uh, I think that quantity in the beginning is definitely more important than quality. But I don't think that maybe you should do, 100 posts a day, or 100 engagements a day. But I think that you should definitely focus more on quantity and getting posts in, rather than doing, if you, I think it's better, for example, if you post every day for a week, rather than just making one post a day, because that, especially in the beginning, uh, or if you post once a, try to get, you need to get a certain amount of quantity before you can get the quality, I think. So you don't have to do enormous amounts, but of hard work to, with engagements and posts. But I think that you should do something that works for you, but don't focus so much on making whatever post you do, if it's once a week or once a day, that it's the perfect post. But instead just post, and then kind of iterate after that and start with what works for you. So quantity, I try to focus on quantity, especially when I'm still fairly early on. I mean, I've been on X only a couple of months too, um, but quantity is what I focus on, but not where you do it, so you can't sustain it for a long period of time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think quantity, just not extreme quantities,
Yeah,
are how you should start.
because you need to put in the quantity, right? Like you need to. It's like that. So here's another thing that I heard somewhere that I can't remember, but where I got it from. But there is this story of students. Maybe it's a study. Maybe it even happened in real life, but I think it did. Where they did a study of students that were making pots like like they do pottery and they make their own pots. And one group had 1 week to create the perfect pot, and then you had another group who could do as many pots as they wanted to, and then present the one that they were most happy with or something like that. And the people who could only create one pot and they had to make the most perfect pot they could, uh, their pots were a lot worse than the people who could create as many pots as they wanted and then choose the one that was best. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say the quantity, that someone who's made 20,000 posts makes better posts than me, who's only done short, like a little bit less than 8,000 posts. And I make better posts probably than someone who's only made 1,000 posts in general. And that's kind of how I try to think about it, but you start small. So that's why it kind of sounds a little bit counterintuitive, I guess, where I say, oh, start easy, start small, but also focus on the quantity, more on the quantity in the beginning rather than the quality.
Mhm. I mean, you can still mesh them together, right? Like
Yeah,
quality, but like it doesn't have to be perfect. So you just like put it out there. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. So it's still a small step in theory.
yeah.
And so next tweets that I really, really love. It's kind of the plan that you outlined for X as far as like, documenting your journey and stuff like that. And so you said, I am here on X to share my story, share the journey of building Naked Viking, learning to write, and just share stuff I think is interesting. Why are you here on X? So this was posted 2 weeks ago. Is your mission still the same? And why?
Yes, it's absolutely still is my goal to just share the journey, mostly to stay accountable for myself, but also to teach people who are behind me what they can do if they want to build an e-commerce brand, help them where I can, uh, so people can see, you know, what how it is, the challenges, the easy things, what is fun, what is not fun, and just try to help the people that are behind me, or maybe people that are at the same level as I am, but they've gone a different route. And then maybe I can learn something from them and they can learn something from me. So the purpose is just to help people where I can, and show them my journey of building Naked Viking and building my personal brand.
Uh, That's a perfect segue to my next question. What advice do you have for anybody that's starting any kind of business, whether it be online with e-commerce or brick and mortar? How should they go about starting a personal brand or just a presence online?
I think I kind of touched on that a little bit before, where uh, I would just, you know, start and find that thing that makes you unique, and find that thing that I think you find that by posting, and by engaging and by talking with people and by seeing what other people do to be different. And I'm not saying that I'm different, but I'm trying to find my unique thing, and I've tried that with Naked Viking, and it's an ever evolving thing where it changes over time. But I think just start posting is the best. It doesn't matter. You could just post, hello, what are you doing here? Why are you on X? It can be super easy. It doesn't really matter. It's just start posting and start engaging with people. And then you can start learning from that and then start iterating from that. That's the only really advice I have. And just get that fear out of you, or overcome that fear of posting and what are people going to say, what are my friends going to say. Who cares? I know it's not easy. I was nervous too when I started posting first. I was nervous for this and a bunch of other things, but just do it, and do what you can to overcome that fear, and do the thing that you actually want to do, because you only live one life, and it's not even certain that you're gonna live until you're 80 or 70. We might die tomorrow. You don't know. So
Yeah.
you know, do what you want to do and try to figure it out with one small step at a time.
Perfect. I want to wrap up everything with a beautiful tweet that you wrote. And it's actually my favorite tweet that I stumbled across as I scrolled through your timeline and doing my research. Maybe I am late to realize this, but we should enjoy the journey of entrepreneurship way more. Even if it's tough, I mean, think about it. If you could go for a walk, you don't think about how great it will be at your destination. You enjoy the actual walk, the journey. What about your journey so far have you found the most joy and wunjo in?
I found most joy in, I mean, I feel better. I'm happier than what I've ever been. I'm in better shape than what I've ever been. I have, I'm not saying I figure it out because I have not really not figured it out, but everything in my life is going right now very well. I have a girlfriend with a loving relationship. I have this flying job being a pilot. Um, so that's how I create my Wunju right now. And then we want to help people as well with their chafing. And we want to, you know, make them laugh, make them chuckle. It doesn't have to be laugh out loud kind of, but just get that email in their inbox once a week or whatever it might. We might change it. Right now we're doing once a week. We just started, and then just do that, and then maybe they smile a little bit, or it's like, oh, that was a little bit funny, and just create Wunju that way, one small step at a time, and just just enjoy the journey. It's
Absolutely.
it's uh, it's difficult, but I love it, and I try to, even though I think about the where I want to be, that goal. I want to enjoy the journey as well, uh, which is not always enjoyable because it's some things that are difficult, or I just want to pull my hair out because it can't figure it out. But you're going to think back at the difficult times and say, wow, I'm really happy I overcame that, and wow, that changed my character, made me stronger, or more resilient and better.
Mhm. All right, Gabriel. I want to end off the podcast with a fun question for you. So imagine you become king of the world tomorrow. You have unlimited money, unlimited power, unlimited status. What is the first thing that you'd spend your money on? And what would be the first law that you'd pass that the entire world had to follow?
Um, that's what I would do is what I would spend my money on is probably maybe a house or a place where I can live with my family. It would definitely be something family related, something related to. I would probably no. You know what? I would actually first pay off my student loans. That's what I would pay off first because I have student
Yeah,
loans,
yeah.
and then I would retire my parents. That's the first things that I would do. Uh, and one law that I would let everyone pass, or everyone that everyone has to follow. Um, Sounds very, I don't want to make it, sound like a dictator, but it would be
You're the
amazing.
king.
Yeah, I know. What I would do, so people would help each other. If you help someone, it doesn't have to be with entrepreneurship, but it could be as simple as I would pass a law that everyone has to make a good deed to help someone or make the world a little bit of a better place every day. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be as little as helping that grandma cross the street, or it could be as much as going and buying milk for your mom who needs it for her cake, or whatever it might be. Something like that. If every person put a little bit of effort in to make the world a better place every day, I think the world would improve so much more every day. And there are a lot of people who improve the world and do small things to help people. I just think if all 7 billion of us did that, imagine where we'd be.
No, we'd be, yeah, absolutely. I love that. All right. Let the world know what you've been up to. Plug everything that you've got going on. Let's hear it.
In my business, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be your X account. It could be your newsletter, whatever it is.
So anything that's been going on in my world and what's happening. And yeah, it's the main thing is that we're trying to find a manufacturer. We are currently on Naked Viking side is finding a manufacturer, building our email list. So we're playing a little bit of Facebook ads and things like that. And then it's basically just, it's very much of a routine. I fly, which is what I'm doing, where I earn my money, and that's what's happening. And then the other part is the working, and then just keeps rotating like that over and over again. And then I spend time with my girlfriend, and we rotate again. And that's it's kind of like everything that, I don't know if it's normal, but if it's a normal life, but it's definitely, that's what's going on the most. I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know how to answer it really, but
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, amazing answer. I love that. Yeah, your life is definitely a dream for a lot of people. So yeah, I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Viking of X in swim shorts, Gabriel Lindh. This was such a great episode, dude, and I loved talking to you. It's been great getting to know you. And
thank
thanks
you.
for joining me on the show.
It was great. Thank you.